The I.A.M movement presents I Am Her Story, featuring Miss Cinquetta. Let's get right into part 3. So as we're talking about you overcoming that situation, you're saying that it's important to have a relationship with God. Now you have a daughter. Mm-hmm. How do you think that situation impacted your daughter?
My daughter was young at the time. However, I do know and feel that she was impacted to some extent. What I can say is that I got out in time enough for her to have not been consumed by it, overwhelmed by it, or really at an age where it did affect her. However, it didn't affect her to the point where I think that if she was older at the time, it may have impacted her a lot more versus the impact that it did have on her. Now, however, the impact was an impact and it hit, and we still deal with, some of the things.
If you had to say something to your daughter as relates to that situation, and if she was to ever find herself in that type of situation, what would you tell her?
Oh, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. You are more than enough. You are enough. You are better than that. That's not, you wasn't created for somebody to be pounding on you, beating on you. I would tell her all of those things and whatever else I needed to tell her, depending on the situation or how severe the situation is. So however, you can never say never. People say never, but I don't think that I'm ever going to have that conversation, because I am going to conquer that so that she don't have to go. Now, when we start talking about those things, now I'm going to beat that demon down so she don't never have to see that. So that's one thing that I won't be passing on her. She won't. My job as her mother is to make sure that any generational curse that has been passed down to me, that she never sees it. That is my job, to break every chain, break every curse, break every spirit, break everything down right here. The buck stops here, because I'm responsible for her and all the generations that's coming out of her. So no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
So if we continue with this in the same vein of being a mother, what would you say? Would you say that's one of your greatest accomplishments?
I would say that was one of my greatest accomplishments.
Why would you say that's one of your greatest accomplishments?
I would say that because when you're a child, you talk about, oh, when I grow up, I'm going to have kids, and this is what we're going to do, and this how I'm going to be, and out, But then when you grow up and you have kids, and then they grow up, and you look back and you say, not so much that I created that, but like, dang, that's a carbon copy of who I am. That's, who they are because of the characteristics, the things that I instilled in them, the foundations that I laid down for them. So, of course, that's the greatest accomplishment, to be able to say you birthed a whole human being. It's almost like the act of God, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's like God loved us so much. He spoke everything else into existence. But when it came down to create us, he created us with his bare hands. Like, it's like being an artist, and you specifically, put in this paintbrush over here because you want this to look like that.
Yeah.
And you discipline your kids because you specifically don't want them to be like you. You specifically want them to have these characteristics. So you instill this and you teach this, and to be able to look at your work, in a sense, to say, dang, look at my boy. He done grown up. He done went to school. He done all of this. Wow. Going through an abusive relationship. going through school, working 2 jobs, taking care of 3 kids, all by yourself, no baby father, no baby mother, however, whatever your situation is, to be able to look back over that and you see your baby come across the stage and you think about, dang, I remember when that week that I got paid and I got my check was $800 and the bills was $850, and you didn't. Now you have a college graduate. Absolutely, greatest accomplishment to be able to say I gave birth to Zoe and look at her now, or I gave birth to Sam and look at him now. Like, yeah, that's your own personal artwork. It's like God gave you a canvas and said, here.
So you have girls, girls and boys. You have your children. They're both male and female. What are the peaks and valleys of raising a black man in America with the climate that we're currently in?
Peaks and valleys. The valleys are the things that we face and we see every day. The fact that being black, being a male, having dreads, wearing a hoodie, you automatically are just labeled as this, that, or the other. That's the valley part of it. The peak is that I can raise a black boy, a strong black male, who is intelligent, who knows his worth, who can be himself, be sure of himself, and strong and free in him, and defeat all the odds. No matter what you say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be this. And it may not look like what society say that it should, but you living your best life, and that's whatever that means to you. That's a peak, to be able to raise a black boy who at birth you already are at the bottom of the totem pole. Like, because you was born, because you was black, because you was a boy, you have 150 million odds already against you. But for you to raise a boy and to even be able to come up against those odds, and maybe even losing a battle or two against the odds, but to overcome, on the outside, in general, that's the peak. It's a peak.
What would you say is the greatest lesson you've ever taught your children?
The greatest lesson of all is who God is. Because regardless of the life that I lived in front of them at a point, the life that I live now, regardless of where they are in their life right now, the foundation is they know who God is. They know who He is to me. They know Him for themselves. And that's what's important, because the Bible talks about that. Train up a child in the way they should go, they won't depart from that. So even though they may not be living the life that I necessarily would love to see for them to live, I know that because I laid down the foundation, that if anything fails or go wrong, they know how to pray, and they know how to get themselves out of a situation, and that's prayer. So, yeah.
What would you tell your younger self?
I was asked this question last year at the Destiny's Daughters Leadership Retreat.
Oh, tell us about Destiny's Daughter.
And, okay, so Destiny's Daughters is an organization that I work with that I love so dearly. It was founded by Melody M. Pennell, who is and was my camp counselor back when I was a young girl at Camp Deer Park. It was a Christian camp that I went to every year. And I've kept in contact with her for all these years. And back in 2013, she asked me to be a part of her women's leadership organization, empowerment ministry, to be the director for the branch of DC branch here, to lead up other girls and teach them about their God-given purpose and who they are and dreams and ambitions and all of those good things. So we had our leadership retreat last year, and I took Zoe with me because I always try to show her both worlds, both a little bit of every part of me. And we did this exercise where we had to face each other, and Zoe was the younger me and I was the older her. And so I had to talk to her as if I was talking to myself. And the very first thing that came to my mind, because I was just thinking, like, what would I say to my younger self? I really don't, like, hey, there's so many things you can say, but when you think of that, I don't want to just be saying anything. So I'm like really thinking. I think sometimes I can be an overthinker. But the very first thing that came to my mind was that you are not a secret. And so that's what I would tell my younger self, is that because at the time, like I said before, I didn't know, that I was a secret. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't know until I was an adult. And then, to even, like, the reality of that was like, to have my aunt say to me, yeah, your dad had a conversation with your mom, and your father was like, I thought you was going to talk to Quetta. And apparently, okay, so the scenario was, apparently I was standing on the front one day, and my father came out the building, and I said, hey, Daddy, and he was with his wife. And I wasn't supposed to say that, and I didn't know. And he had a conversation with Mom and said, well, I thought you was going to talk to Quetta. And my mother apparently said, I did talk to Quetta. And when my aunt told me that, and she didn't tell me that, I didn't find that out until 2 years ago, because my father's been dead a year now. This year, Thanksgiving will make 2 years. So I found out a year ago, after my father died. Maybe a week after my dad died. And my mother was gone already for like 4 years prior to that. And it was like, dang, I really was a secret. I wasn't even supposed to say his name. Like, I wasn't supposed to address him outside. I didn't find that out until I was like 37. So that's like, I would tell her, girl, you ain't nobody's secret.
Okay.
This has been part 3 of Cinquetta's story. Make sure you stay connected for part 4, coming at you real soon. The I.A.M movement is on the move. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and on YouTube for the latest videos, posts, and updates. On Instagram at the_I_am_movement_SNW. On Facebook at the I.A.M movement SNW. And on YouTube at the I.A.M movement.